I think one of the most difficult parts of prescribing homemade diets is the owner actually following through all the instructions, because it's a very complex kind of diet, because when you provide kibble, they just open the package and then it's ready.
So hi, welcome everybody. So welcome to the Pet Food Science Podcast. I'm Jan Suchodolski. I'm your today's host. And it's actually my very first episode. And I'm very excited about it to welcome Vivian with us. So our goal is truly to expand today about homemade diets. Okay, so Vivian is an expert she has a small company, but her goal is and her expertise is really in homemade diets. And I think from a veterinary perspective, at least from nutrition, we know that this is a huge area. Some animals really drive, especially with GI disease, on homemade diets. So before we start, Vivian, maybe you want to introduce yourself a little bit. Our goal of this podcast is that the guests are really, the guests are so we bring you to shine. So feel free to tell us about yourself, how much you want, and your backgrounds.
Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Vivian Pedrinelli. I'm a veterinarian from Brazil, and I was a resident in small animal clinical nutrition, and with Professor Alus. And then I went back to São Paulo to do my master's degree and also have a doctorate. And all my research area, all the time since my residency, I've been working with homemade diets. I have a few papers published in this area. And now I am a partner in a small business called NutriCare Vet here in Brazil. We have courses, we do consulting for companies, and we also develop and help small companies do some natural foods and homemade diets, but not homemade because they're commercial, like companies made them. I don't know the best term, but we also have a lot of work in this area. And now we developed formulating software for people to make homemade diets for vets, for professionals. And now we're still working in the area as professionals and not so much as a researcher. But I hope I can go back soon to being a postdoctoral student. So.
At Allura Pets, our commitment to biotechnological innovations empowers you to craft superior products that redefine pet wellness standards. Whether enhancing nutrient bioavailability, promoting gut health, or boosting immunity, our science-backed solutions give your formulations a competitive edge in the pet market. Trust Allura Pets to deliver scientifically proven ingredients that elevate your portfolio to new heights. Visit us at www.allura.bio/pets to learn more.
Out of my own interest, actually, Brazil is very famous for all the nutrition. How comes that you have so many nutrition specialists?
Yes.
How is this? How does it come from veterinary school? How do you end up really in nutrition?
And nowadays we have a lot of universities that have courses in small animal clinical nutrition and small animal nutrition. When back in my day, when I was at school, we did not have that many courses. Mostly were voluntary. We didn't have them to be mandatory in our school, but we have many universities that have strong programs that develop research in clinical nutrition and small animal nutrition, as in diets and not necessarily in clinical, like in animals that are sick. So I think we nutrition is kind of it's important for a lot of diseases. So I think people are now seeing that it's necessary to understand more about nutrition, even though they're not nutritionists. So I think that's because we are seeing this relevancy of nutrition and more research and more people interested. So I think that's why.
Okay, so you're really starting very early in your curriculum, in your veterinary curriculum, or nutrition, or?
No, I think more towards the end of the course. Yeah.
No, I think that's obviously we all know that nutrition is such an important subject, especially for even in any kind of diseases. So my question is, how did you end up ultimately your career path from graduating and then you went into a small company? Can you tell us a little bit about that part?
I always wanted to work with nutrition since my third year vet school. So I did a lot of research and I studied a lot of nutrition because we didn't have back at school. So I did some internships and then I ended up in residency. So I wanted to do the residency in small animal clinical nutrition. And then I had contact with multiple companies and I did some lectures for companies. And I saw that many companies want to enter this world of nutrition and they need some guidance. So together with my partners, we decided to start a company and help those companies who want to develop technical material and have lectures and develop diets or foods, homemade diets or supplements. So because we're all like experts, we all have PhDs, doctorates, and so we saw this opening and people that needed this expertise in the market.
So how do you see the future of homemade diets? Is that percentage of, what do you think in Brazil, is a percentage of total the pet food market? How much is really homemade diets? Do you have any estimate?
I think my estimate is biased because
Okay.
as I'm a clinical nutritionist, I see a lot of patients that need homemade diets. I don't know. But as a rough estimate, I think
Okay.
maybe 5 to 10% of animals nowadays eat homemade diets.
Okay.
When I mean homemade diets, I mean like diets that are prepared for them and not like table scraps and such. Because I think if we consider table scraps, that estimate would be a little higher. But I think 5 to 10%.
Let me maybe separate those two in. So you're consulting for industry, correct? For pet food companies themselves, and then also for individual patients. Do they come refer to you through the veterinarian, or do they find you yourself themselves, or how does it work?
Yeah, I have both patients. Also, I consult for companies, and also I do have my own nutrition consultation practice. So I have patients that find ourselves. We do have some marketing and Instagram and social media that we announce our work with patients, and also we have a lot of coworkers that refer to us patients. Mainly when they're sick. So we have gastroenterologists, nephrologists, a lot of friends and coworkers that want their patients to be the best at their nutrition, so they refer to us.
Okay. So let me maybe look at the individual patient owners, right? So obviously the referral come through mostly veterinarians when the patient is sick, correct?
Yes.
How about the owners who come contact you directly? Are they usually in healthy animals? They wanna. What is the main reasoning why the owners come to you if the animal is healthy?
Yeah, I said that my estimate is biased because most owners when they come to us, most of them are healthy,
hmm
and then they want to change from a commercial, conventional diet to a homemade diet. That's most of my patients that come without referring from a colleague.
hmm
That's why.
And do you have a feeling why the owners want to do that? What is the main reasoning an owner comes themselves to you, right? Voluntarily, because they want to change from a commercial to a homemade diet.
Yeah, I think we see this shift in the importance of nutrition also in humans. And I have a lot of human nutrition friends that also see this change. So I think owners are caring more about the nutrition for themselves, and then they are more worried for the nutrition of their pets. So I think they want to give what's best for the pets, and many of them perceive homemade diets as being the best option. We have a lot of, I don't know, we say here in Brazil, we have the expression, it's like nutritional terrorism,
Okay.
because yes, it's a very strong because people they're constantly hearing that processed foods,
Okay.
commercial, conventional foods are way too processed, and then they have ingredients that are not good for the pets. We know this is not true. For good companies, it's not absolutely not true. They have super good ingredients, and then the processing is perfect. Like they have these factories that are awesome. I have to visit now. I was able to visit some in here in Brazil, and we can trust most. I cannot say all, but most manufacturers, they really study and have the research in nutrition, but
Mhm.
owners are worried. I think they want the best for the pets, and when they hear a lot of things, I think they feel kind of guilty that if they don't provide for the best for the pets, they think they feel kind of guilty. So I think homemade diets fit into that. They want the best, and sometimes they want control of what they feed their animals, so they want to cook at home,
Mhm.
and then they know what's in the pet's food. And I think this is why.
Yeah, actually, let me ask you one step back because, and that's maybe you should be the expert in this area. But for me, I also hear this that owners say, "Oh, all those kibble diets and all those commercial diets are highly processed." And is this actually true? Is it a misconception? Because I think there's this confusion with Western diets, right? But isn't Western diets not just how you prepare it, but it's mostly high sodium, high fats, low carbohydrates. So there seems to be a little bit of a misconception, I believe, and that's just my thoughts. And I want to ask your question between what an owner thinks is a highly processed diet versus a dog food that is processed, right? But it's clearly not the same, right?
Yes, this is a misconception. We have the processing of kibble diets. Yes, they are processed. They have to go through a process to become kibble, right?
Mhm.
But it's not like people say it's high temperature, so they lose all the vitamins. That's not true. They kind of like a pressure cooker.
Mhm.
It's not a lot of difference between
Okay.
we have extrusion process and a pressure cooker. You add water, you have humidity, and then you have a certain amount of pressure for it to become a kibble, and that's it. It's not like ultra high temperatures, and they're very healthy, very balanced. They have the companies have nutritionists that are behind it, and in test before, during, and after the process to ensure that everything is there and it's safe for the pet. So I think it truly is a misconception that kibble is not healthy for your pet. It's
Mhm.
very different from those Western diets.
How do you think owners follow your instructions? So let's assume just a healthy animal, right? So the healthy owner that's concerned, he wants to cook himself. How is there a way that you actually can control or you think they're really following your instructions?
Yes, this is, I think, one of the most difficult parts of prescribing homemade diets is the owner actually following through all the instructions, because it's a very complex kind of diet. Because when you provide kibble, they just open the package and then it's ready. They
Mhm.
just have to weigh how much the animal wants or needs to eat for the day, and that's it. But homemade diets, you have to cook, and you have to weigh the ingredients separately, and then you have to combine them and add a supplement, and then sometimes freeze or make every 2 or 3 days. And it's a very complex and it's very complex for some owners. So during consultation, we ask a lot of questions, and we try to feel like what the owner is about, because sometimes it is too complex for some owners. And we expect when we prescribe the diet that they will make some changes to what we're prescribing. So during the consultation and the conversation, the assessment of the animal and the owner, we sometimes perceive that if we allow a lot of substitutions for carbohydrates or vegetables, it may be too confusing for the owner. So sometimes we start with just a simple diet, some ingredients, and see how the owner can uh, prepare this at home. Sometimes we know the owners are very, very methodical, and they have like these tables for medication, and say, okay, sometimes maybe this owner can do a little more, and then we allow some more. Now, initially we not allow some more substitutions and something extra for this diet. So but we have some research in the area that says that sometimes like 30 to 50% or more of owners, they change what we prescribe.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and sometimes it's just a small change. They change zucchini for, I don't know, something else, okra, I don't, something here in Brazil. And it's sometimes just a minor change and does not have any nutritional impact, but sometimes it's very important. They sometimes skip the supplements, they change the amounts of protein, and in some diseases this is important. So we expect to have some changes from owners, and we try to monitor that, because sometimes we have to sit and talk to the owner and say maybe homemade diet is not the best for you and your pet if you're not doing right, because then we have more risk than benefit. So we have to assess what the owner can do, because sometimes they want to provide the best, and maybe doing homemade diets wrong is not the best for the pet. So we have to be very transparent about that.
So you said 30 to 50% you estimate kind of change, modify a little bit your protocols. Why?
Yes.
How do you ensure like actually cooking, right? I mean, I know that, for example, rice, if you add rice or something, it has to be really cooked really properly. Are you making, that's a lot of educational effort to the clients, or is it you really going through every single step, or do you trust they do it correctly?
Yes, it's a very, as I said, it's a very complex process, and they have a lot of doubts about it, and they have a lot of questions. So sometimes I do have some prepared uh, material that I give to the owners that has all these instructions, because I have to repeat it over and over again during all the consultations. So I have some material that's ready that says how much should they cook, how should they cook, should they cook in water, should they steam it, should they remove the skin of the chicken thigh. They have a lot of questions, very complex. So I always instruct them to cook thoroughly, so all the carbs, especially because otherwise they can have a lot of problems with digestion, mainly diarrhea and fermentation, and we do not want that. So all I always instruct them to cook thoroughly, all the meats and all the carbs. Sometimes vegetables, they can be raw, and so I have all this in the material. Should they add a supplement before, during, or after preparation? Should they freeze it? Can they heat it after freezing? How should they heat it to provide to the animal? So it's a lot of instructions. It's very complex.
Are those usually owners that cook for themselves already have experiences, or and then they are more concerned to cook for the animal, or is it some owners just don't not have their own expertise in cooking, but they want to cook for the dogs?
Most of my clients, the owners as I have, they do not know how to cook. So I think
Okay.
that's more, yes, I think that's the most difficult part, because they don't know how to cook for themselves, and they have more questions about should they cook for the pets, because they have no idea how to cook fish or meat. Should they, how high should be the pan? They ask a lot of different questions, and say, okay, I have to be prepared for that. So a lot of clients that I have do not want or do not know how to cook for themselves. And then we have a lot of companies here in Brazil that already prepare the diet. So I can prescribe a diet, and then they take my prescription to a company that makes it according to my prescription. So the owners don't have to cook at home. So this is a strategy for me. Maybe sometimes when the animal needs homemade diet because they have multiple diseases, and it's the most proper diet for the animal at that time, then sometimes I recommend those companies, because I know they are doing just as prescribed, and the owners are not changing anything. Sometimes they may change the amount of the food, but the total amount of the day, and not special ingredients, so that the diet's not at all unbalanced. So this is a strategy. Sometimes when I sense the owner is not going to follow through my instructions, I recommend some companies.
Let me just come back to the companies a little bit later, so we can kind of finish the blog. So that really amazes me that you say that many owners that come to you want to cook for the animals, but not really cooking for themselves. That's really interesting. I think that's really, something that we need to realize also as veterinarians, for example, because we probably don't even think about this way, right?
Yeah.
But then once you have an animal that has disease, right? So you said already, then it becomes more challenging, right? Then they get referred. And I think in this stage, obviously, it's also very crucial, right? That you find the right diet, especially if there's animals who have multiple comorbidities and so on. So how do you think the compliance is in this population of owners?
I think when the animal is ill and nutrition is a big part of the treatment, I think they're more prone to following instructions. I think they're more concerned about the risks of not following through instructions. So comparing to the owners that have healthy animals, I think they're the owners of animals that are sick are more compliant.
So one question actually just came to my mind that I forgot to ask before. Do you have any feeling how many owners start cooking and then decide to quit because it's just too much work?
Yes, I have some owners that do that, and sometimes I challenge the owners so they can see how difficult it is to cook for the animals. And sometimes they come to us and they think that homemade diets is the best for the pet because they listen a lot in social media or friends or family that they should give homemade diets to the pet. And they come and they're uncertain that they want to, but they want to see if the animal likes it, how the routine goes at home, cooking for the animal. And so I prescribe it and I say, okay, in 30 days or like a month, you come back and we see how it goes. And some of them, yes, they come and say it's too difficult. I don't want that. I want to go back to kibble. It's more practical, so we do that. But as I think sometimes 15 to 20% of the owners that have healthy animals do that. I think
Okay.
they go back to kibble, in my experience.
How do owners, again, let's say with the healthy animals, it's simpler kind of compare the costs ultimately. I think in the beginning, what is the cost difference for them per animal roughly? I mean, you probably have estimates. It's cheaper, same price, more expensive to home cook.
Actually, we did some research on that. So we have a paper that's published about that, about the cost
Okay.
here in Brazil. And we compared kibble and wet diet cost to those of homemade diets, both for maintenance and so healthy animals and for therapeutical diets. And our results were that homemade diets are more expensive in all of the scenarios, except for wet diets. Here in Brazil, wet diets are very expensive.
Okay.
So homemade diets are intermediate between kibble and wet diets. The only scenario in which the homemade diets were the same price as a kibble diet was in allergy. So hypoallergenic diets with hydrolyzed protein were as expensive as homemade diets,
Okay.
kibble. In all the other scenarios, homemade diet was more expensive than kibble. So when owners come for us and say, "Oh, I want to change because it's cheaper," we say, "No, it's not," because supplements are a big part of homemade diets and they are expensive. Uh, so the other ingredients are also expensive, and mainly meat here. Meat in Brazil is a big part of the cost of the diet.
It's Brazil,
And
right?
yeah, but the supplements are the most expensive and they're a big part of homemade diets and they are mandatory. So it is expensive.
Okay.
So we just say that and get it out of the way. So this is not a decision factor for the owner. So they know it's more expensive, and beforehand they need to know if they want to pursue it anyway.
So on average, how many hours do you spend initially until an owner that who wants to cook for their dog, until he gets all the information, that you feel comfortable that he's really following instructions? How many hours do you think you need?
Oh, my consultation now generally lasts like an hour and a half for the first time owners that don't know and they have a lot of questions, sometimes maybe more. And I'm very thorough. I like to explain everything and make sure there are no uh, doubts. There are always doubts, but then sometimes the big ones we get out of the way. So how to cook, how to weigh. We always say they have to weigh in a digital scale because sometimes they have the ones that have the pointers and they're not so precise, and then a lot of instructions. They have a lot of doubts about reheating after freezing and how long should they freeze, and all of that I get out of the way in the first consultation. So
Okay.
there we reduce the mistakes they made during the process.
Mhm. And do you have a feedback of those owners who kind of follow over months and years? And what is their feedback? What did they tell you about the animals? do they have a perception that the animals is doing better on those diets? Or I mean, it's biased, obviously, but I'm just curious what is the excitement and how long do they usually gonna cook forever, or sooner or later they switch again?
Most of them, they're pretty positive. They think their animals are better. Their fur is like shinier, and the feces quality is better, and the animal likes better to eat the homemade diet than kibble. Must Oh, it's biased because most of the animals that come to me are healthy. They're sometimes picky eaters,
Hmm.
so when we change the homey diets they eat a lot better, and the owner doesn't have to sit and feed them by hand, kibble by kibble. And then that's the perception they have, that the animal eats better because it likes the food more.
Hmm.
And so I think that's pretty much the perception. I think most of the owners think the animal likes more and is doing better with homemade diet. It's not scientifical, but
Of course,
it's very
yeah.
biased. But I think they cite it. The owners that do not think that, they sometimes do not want to keep cooking for the animals because it's very complex and it takes a lot of time. And when they don't send to companies to do it for them, they sometimes don't see. It's okay. The animal likes it, but it's not very practical. So I'm going back to kibble. So that's 20% of them, I
And
think.
what do you think the time frame usually is? Is it months or years until they go back?
I think sometimes months, 3 to 6 months, they give up if they don't want to, because it's very. I think it's very time consuming. I have owners that they say they. I have an owner that have two chihuahuas, so it's small, two small dogs, and it cooks like for one Sunday the whole month, one Sunday per month for the whole month, and it takes a whole day to cook for two small animals for the whole month. So it's kind of, yeah, it's time consuming if they do it at home.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have big dogs, large breed dogs, and more than one, and then it's very time consuming. So 3 to 6 months they say, okay, I don't want to spend time with this anymore, we're done, go back to kibble, that's okay.
Perfect. I was intrigued by what you said. There are companies that actually you give them a recipe and then they afterwards, prepare it. So it's really individualized, or do they have like a portfolio of different limited amount of products? Or is it really that you give them the recipe and they really tailor it to the individual dog?
Yeah, we have both. We have some companies that have portfolio of diets, so they cannot change that. So it's like a kibble diet. They have that diet, and if you want, you can prescribe that diet for your client or your patient. And we have companies that do this very individualized diet. So I send. It's like a pharmacy that
Mm,
manipulates
mhm.
the drugs. So we have that for diet. So I send my prescription and they do exactly according to my prescription, and they only divide like the meals per day. If they want, the owner wants 2 or 3, they package it individually for a meal or for the whole day, but it's exactly as I prescribe, even the
Oh,
supplements. So it's very handy when you have an owner that needs to, if it's clinically important for the dog or cat, mostly dogs, because cats do not like a lot to eat a lot of homey diets. But for dogs, when it's clinically important, and I think the owner will not follow through instructions, or the owner does not have the time, but have a little more money to spend because it's a little more expensive to have these companies prepare. But when the owner wants to and can, maybe it's a very good choice for them.
no, it sounds great. But is it then much more expensive though? I would think though it would be quite expensive if they have to really do it per animal. A
Yes.
rough estimate, how much percentage wise?
For the we have a lot of companies, but the ones I recommend are usually 20 to 25% more expensive than them doing it at home. So, but they are, yeah, they provided freezed and portioned. It's very
Mm,
practical, but so if the owner can afford it, it's a good
no, then
choice. But not all of them can afford it. So.
what do you think is the fresh food market anyway in the US? So in Brazil, for example, like those companies who have tailored homemade diets, kind of right, or kind of homemade style diets. Is this a growing percentage? You think?
I think it is. I think it's a growing percentage, but I don't know. or it's a biased
Okay,
experience
that's we are
because
here talk
yeah,
about the experiences. No
it's
problem.
my experience, so it's totally biased. But I think it's increasing. I have seen more patients that one, and I think as the animals live more and we have more diagnostics, then I think we're seeing the importance of tailored nutrition.
Mhm.
So sometimes a lot of patients I have more than one disease, so we have to, and we don't, most of the times we don't have a commercial diet available that can speak to those diseases, so we have to, the best choice for the animal is the homemade diet that has all the nutritional changes that benefit
Mhm.
all of the diseases it has. So I think it's increasing because animals are living more, we have more diagnostics, and people are seeing nutrition as more important. So I think a lot of colleagues are referring more for nutrition expertise instead of just prescribing kibbles or commercial diets.
It's great because I also in humans I actually read more and more now recently from the AGA that nutrition becomes a stable, and I think our luck is that we can control diets much better than in humans. The compliance is much better, even if Um, so maybe taking just to verify what I just heard is that if an animal would have one disease, right? Let's say allergies or renal or GI, usually most veterinarians still prescribe therapeutic diets, correct? Or and then when they have multiple diseases, then a home-based diet is easier to do. Is that kind of your experience at the moment?
Yes, because I think more most of the experts, the specialists, they can manage the animals when it's a therapeutical diet. So if they have diabetes, most endocrinologists already know how to prescribe kibble diet and manage the patient with commercial diets, so they don't refer to us. Uh, and when they have multiple diseases, it's a layer of
Mhm.
complexity, so they refer to us mostly. Yeah.
So you think Brazil is very much more ahead of the curve in really that the general practitioner recommends nutritionist? Because that's something in the US I think it's just starting more and more, but there's not so many board certified nutritionists. Do you think Brazil is ahead of the curve already?
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
No, I don't, because we have a lot of veterinarians in Brazil, and we could have a lot more referrals, and we don't.
Okay.
I think most people are starting to see now. I think it's growing, and people and professionals are giving more and more importance to nutrition. So I think it could be way more than it is now. And also, we don't have board certified specialists here in
Okay.
Brazil yet for nutrition. We're on the process of having that, and I think this will help so we can provide the owners and other colleagues with some people to refer to that are in fact specialists that have studied for that. But I think we can improve a lot more in referring to nutritionists here in Brazil.
Maybe that's a really good transition. Maybe so you also do a lot of education, correct? Courses, and so tell us a little bit about it, that part.
Yes, part of our company, we always saw that people needed to know more about nutrition. So a lot of courses, schools, they do not have uh, what we should say it's a good nutrition course. They have a little bit more about production animal nutrition, but not so much at small animal nutrition and clinical nutrition. So we saw that many veterinarians and animal scientists should know more about nutrition and more about, I think, more specialized nutrition, because we have a lot of courses that schools have, and they're more, I think they just touch the surface about nutrition and just simple themes, simple subjects like how to assess the nutrition of a patient and how to prescribe for just one disease. And we saw that a lot of colleagues had doubts and wanted to know more about nutrition, especially more specialized nutrition, more detailed nutrition.
Mm.
So we decided we needed to do some courses uh, in different subjects. Now we have one that's on urologists and nephrology, and we have both always we have somebody that says the clinical part of the disease, and then we enter with the nutrition, and it's very specialized nutrition. So we don't, it's not just superficial. We want to people to know what's out there and what's the newest of research, because we are always doing evidence-based veterinary medicine.
So how long does those courses last, and how do you, is this like a weekly course, weekend course, or how do you organize those?
Yeah, we have weekend courses mostly. There's short courses. Uh, Sometimes we have longer. They nowadays people, I think post pandemic, people like recorded courses more, so they can watch whenever they want and for some period of time. So we're doing that right now. Some pre-recorded courses so they can last. But we have courses that tend to 10 hours to 20 hours. So it's short to sometimes we offer like some individual consultations. Sometimes I don't think if the right term in English is coaching. We have
Coaching, yeah.
like, yeah, we have some encounters online with professionals that want help in some specific cases or just in nutritional as general. So we talk about nutrition and try to teach them more individualized.
Let me ask you actually a practical question that's always comes to my mind, because at least in the US, veterinarians are always busy, right? I mean, they have so many minutes per consult. And I guess a good nutrition history takes time, right? How would you recommend veterinarians to start in practice, right? Because nutrition is crucial. Diet history is crucial for GI disease. We know it's really essential. So how can they start, implementing a little bit this nutrition consult in a busy practice?
Yes, I think we have a lot of easy questions that can be asked. Like sometimes here in Brazil, we say people, they come in the animal record and says, what it's eating right now, it's eating kibble. That's it. So I think if we start asking what brand is it for adults, for puppies, for kittens, it would help a lot.
Yeah.
If it's homemade diet or if it's fed treats, if it's along the way we can know if the animal received some animal proteins, if it becomes allergic, it's important for us to know. So this are very easy questions. How much are they fed? What exactly are they fed? And if they have treats, who feeds them? How many times per day? It's very easy to ask that. Sometimes even the owner already stated, and we just have to take notes about it. And also, I think it's very important. I don't know how about in the US, but here in Brazil, I think people use very little about the nutrition scores, like the body condition score or muscle mass score. These are very important. And I think the body condition score scale is about 20 years old or more. So I think people should know more, and it's very important for them to use more than the weight, the number of the weight, and also the scores, so they can assess better their patients. It's very easy. You don't have to have any tools. You just have to have your hands and feel the right areas of the animal. It's very easy to do. If you're already assessing the physical, you're doing the physical exam, you can also do that. It won't take any time more than you already know or need to do the assessment of the animal.
Yeah.
So I think there's very simple and very easy ways to introduce nutrition in the day-to-day practice.
No, it's great, because I think there's a paper that I read like last year that came from Europe, but actually showed that very few veterinarians ask more than kibble or wet, number one. But the challenge was that most owners didn't even know what they're feeding.
Yes, that.
So I think you're familiar with this concept probably. So it takes a long time. But I mean, I completely agree.
For more than 20 years, BioOrigin manufactures high-quality yeast-based ingredients through a sustainable biotechnological process, guaranteeing full traceability from the crop to the bowl. Through specialization in the fermentation process, BioOrigin brings the right solution for specific nutritional, palatability, and health appeals, such as gut health, immune system, skin health, weight control, and more. BioOrigin's products are natural origin, non-GMO, and certified sustainable by Bonsucro. BioOrigin is your partner for high-quality, yeast-based ingredients to add value to pet foods worldwide. Learn more at bioorigin.net.
We have a few more minutes. I'm a little bit intrigued about the software. So you said you developed a software. So the software is that a veterinarian could use the software potentially, or can you tell us a little more about that part?
Yes, it's called Diet Lab, and it's for professionals, so veterinarians and animal nutritionists in general to use, so they can develop diets for the patients and also for companies if they're consulting for a company. And we wanted a very easy tool because as for all my years of experience, I have handled a lot of different softwares, and I have had different difficulties for each one of them, and I wanted one that was very easy for just so practitioners can do it, and as it takes as little time as needed, so they can do a proper diet, a balanced diet, with the little bit of time they have. And we know they're very busy, and sometimes we have coworkers that do all the consulting for the day, all the patients, they see all the patients, and then they come home and have to sit down and formulate all the diets and then send to the patients afterwards, or maybe the next day or the next 2 days. So we didn't want that. We know the vets are very busy, and we want them to have more time, quality time at home, and not come home and still work. So we went to something that was easier, and then you can access everywhere from the internet. You don't have to install it in your computer. So if a vet assess in different clinics, they do not have to bring their computer or their tablet. They can use the computer in the clinic. So it's very easy. We wanted easier to facilitate the day-to-day routine of formulating. Yeah.
Mhm.
So even clinicians can do it. Yeah.
And so how long does it take for a clinician to kind of get trained on it, to feel comfortable, or that also you feel comfortable that they're actually using it properly?
Yeah, we have a video that while we're talking about the software, it takes 2 minutes to formulate the diet.
Oh, really?
So yeah, because I know what I'm doing. So, but I think most people, if you don't know anything about nutrition, the program is very easy to see what's in the diet and what's missing in the diet when you still need to include in the diet. So I think it would take like 10 minutes the most to formulate a diet if someone does not have as much experience. So it's very easy.
And maybe just a few questions about, so you said also you consult for companies, right? I mean, you can tell us whatever you think you kind of, what's of interest to you, and what is the need for consult, what kind of, information is crucial to know.
Yeah, mostly we consult. We develop technical material. So we write technical material to companies. We do lectures about companies. So I think if anyone wants to start in that or wants to do that, I think companies are looking for people that know about nutrition and are experts in some kind of way. And I think some companies don't want to like the owners to know that or see that all that's written for the product, it comes from the company. Sometimes the owners think that's okay. The company is saying that because they want to sell the product. So
Okay.
they ask for experts to write for it. And that's when we come in.
Okay.
We write for them and give our expert opinion without sounding too commercial, because we're not there to sell the product. We just want, if it's a good product, and say that, not that we endorse it, but we provide the evidence that's behind the product that the company developed.
One question I have for you is, since you're really at the source of formulating diets, right? Over the last 5 to 10 years, what do you see is the biggest change in ingredients, or what is kind of the ratios of protein, fat, carbohydrates, fibers, and where you see is the biggest potential from your own experiences?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a shift about owners are wanting more protein. So they think dogs are carnivores, so they need a lot of protein in the diet. So, but sometimes it's not true. They do not need that much protein. And sometimes I have patients that if we give them too much protein, they have a lot of digestive issues because of the excess protein. If they sometimes patients cannot handle that well, um, especially if they already have some inflammation going on. But I think this trend, we follow a lot of trends that occur in human nutrition. So now we have like the sweet potato trend that's very healthy, and they say that's the glycemic index is good. We don't have that for dogs, but they bring that from the humans. And we have a lot of supplements that are trending in human nutrition that come to our small animal nutrition. Vitamin D, it's a very in the it's very all a lot of owners ask about, and a lot of colleagues ask about. I think I'm more of I think maybe we should be more aware of doing the proper diet first, the basics, instead of doing a lot of supplements and different ingredients, because sometimes we pay too much attention to new ingredients and we forget about the necessities, the needs, the requirements of the dogs and cats. But the trend I'm seeing is more of they say human grade
Hmm.
ingredients, both for commercial or homey diets. So sometimes we use a lot of offal, like liver or kidneys or something like that to homey diets, and sometimes owners do not want that. They want like filet mignon or something like that for the pets. And I'm seeing that trend like. It's not necessarily better to have filet mignon over, I think, bovine heart, beef heart. So,
Hmm.
but it's a trend. I think owners want what's best, as we said before, for the pets, and they think what's best for them. It's what's best for the pets, and I think that's the most important trend we see now in ingredients.
And usually, can you convince them otherwise, or?
Yes, when they see the costs, I can convince a lot of owners. When they see the offal or other ingredients are cheaper, they're pretty easily convinced.
How about fiber? Is fiber now? Fiber is becoming more and more important. That at least we know from research. Do owners follow the trend? Do you think?
Yes, but I think the trend comes more from referrals from our colleagues, because it is a very trendy topic in nutrition and veterinary in general. So
Mhm.
I think a lot of colleagues ask about fiber, and in homemade diets, it's very difficult to achieve the kind of fiber we have in commercial diets, in conventional diets. Most sometimes the owner has to manipulate sometimes of fiber, but I think the trend. Some owners ask about that, mainly prebiotics. They're asking about, because I have a lot of owners that care about their nutrition, and sometimes they are using some prebiotics or probiotics, and they ask if they can do the same for their pets. So I think it's starting now in Brazil. It's still very small trend, but I think it's growing. And if they want to know if the animal is feeding is good, or if it's eating all that it should, we always recommend FDF. It's the European guideline for requirements for dogs and cats. It's free, it's online, it's a PDF. They update every 2 to 3 years. So it's a tool that they can compare to labels and see if the kibble diet, commercial wet or homey diet, is okay for that pet. So I think those are the main resources.
Yeah. Before we end, I always supposed to ask you a question about some outside the box kind of questions a little bit. So just a final question. In your opinion, what is sets apart a successful professional? What do you think is something a good professional, a veterinarian or nutritionist should really know that makes him more successful than other ones?
I think curiosity,
Okay.
because maybe I'm a researcher, so I'm always curious. So I think curiosity leads to study, and I think we need to study a lot to to be up to date with the most recent developments in the field. So I think curiosity, know more and understand, and why does my treatment why is not working? Should I do better? What can I do different? So I think it's it. I think curiosity.
Great. Thank you so much, Vivian. I think that concludes another episode of the Pet Food Science Podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time, my name is Jan Suchodolski, and hope to see you soon. And if you're interested, please subscribe to our podcast to keep you updated.